Assalamu alaikum, bismillah. So this is part 5, and I want to go back over something that I had said, and make a bit of a correction. Okay. In the last segment, I was talking about fascism being a product of capitalism, and I had mentioned that with 50 million human beings dead by the end of World War II, and with so much of Europe destroyed, I had said that fascism was the greatest terror that humanity had ever seen. I'm going to correct that, okay? And I'm going to tell you that if you went and asked the Native American people who got wiped out and the ones who still remain, if you went and asked all the peoples of South America, if you went and asked the people of Africa and the people of Asia, Southeast Asia in particular, they would tell you that capitalism is the greatest terror the world has ever seen. Okay? And just imagine that every war that the United States has been driven by capitalism. Okay? It's been driven by stopping socialism. It's been driven by controlling countries and their resources. Okay? And if you go look at how many coups or attempted coups the United States has produced, it's over 50. And in every single one of those cases, just like, Venezuela today, what they want to do is overthrow a socialist government. And always, 100% of the time, they will install a dictator who will be cruel to his own people, but allow U.S. corporations access to their markets and their resources. Okay? Tens of millions of people have been killed. Okay? Entire countries destroyed. Terrorized. Okay? Think about slavery. Okay? It was capitalism that produced slavery. All right? And it was slavery that produced, so much white wealth and so much black poverty in this country. And I'm going to get a little more into that. So the Enclosure Acts took the free lands away from the free people, forced them out of what they had been doing for thousands of years to live, and began extreme wealth accumulation. So imagine what I'm talking about here. So let's say 1,000 acres used to be owned, or not owned, but was lived on by, a small village of people or a small tribe. They farmed the lands and distributed the food among themselves, okay? The Enclosure Acts took that away, and that 1,000 acres now is owned by one person. One, okay? So what do? Well, they farm it, okay? And so you have then this conversion of lands to, these monolithic crops, okay? We're just raising wheat, we're just raising cotton, we're just raising corn. And they sell it, okay? Where the people didn't have to buy it before. Now the people have to buy it. And the money, the payment is all going to go to one person, okay? So they're accumulating the wealth of that entire land, all right? Now, when you see that they did exactly the same thing, That's when the British went into India, when the British, French, Dutch, Americans, etc., went into Africa, when Europeans came into the United States, okay, they were looking for land, okay, and the favored people, okay, or people who already had wealth or had some connections, were looking to start their own capitalist agriculture production. Okay, so this is the literal meaning of capitalism, then, all right? When that person who owned that land produced year after year crops of whatever and sold it for his own wealth, okay, he is beginning massive wealth accumulation, okay, especially relative to the people who were driven off the land, okay, because they no longer live freely. They have to pay rent or a mortgage, they have to take loans and pay interest on loans, and they have to take some garbage wage job, okay? But this person is accumulating wealth, and then what do? They start investing, buy more land, okay? And if they run out of land here, then they will go to another country and take over land there to produce more wealth accumulation. They invest in machinery, okay, so that even the workers that they had to produce their crops, they can start eliminating some of those when they have tractors and plows and, you know, so on and so forth, you know, or buy, you know, a factory to gin the cotton. You see what I'm saying? That's the beginning of modern capitalism, okay? And it's obvious, the monopolization, the building monopolization, the building of ridiculous amounts of wealth controlled by a tiny handful of people, and then the enslavement of the rest of us, okay? So again, this is not how you do business in Islam, guys, all right? This was invented, okay? It was an arbitrary land grab. Capitalism began with a massive theft, okay? The lands of the people were stolen. That's where capitalism began. That's what capitalism is, all right? So I talked about forcing people off the lands and into, you know, cities, etc. Now, what this produced then is all of these unemployed people. 99% of the people suddenly lost their way of living. Okay, this began what we call today the labor market, okay? What it really is, it began wage slavery, okay? Now, in this wage slavery, okay, if you, let's say in London you had 100 shoemakers, and each of those shoemakers, they took pride in what they did. They produced, you know, I don't know, 1,000 pairs of shoes a year, and they supplied all the shoes that the people of London needed, all right? And they made a living for themselves and their families and maybe a helper or two, okay? Small family production, all right? Capitalism ended that. The capitalist comes in and builds a factory, a shoe factory with machinery and some workers. The capitalist is going to work these people like slaves, work them to the bone for as little as they can get away with, okay? But you still have then all of those people who used to be employed, self-employed, shoemakers, Some of them may now be working in the factory, but there is excess. Okay, there's a 10% who could not get a job. That is called the unemployment line. It's also called the reserve army of labor. And here's why you can never win in this situation unless you have a union, all right? When a factory opens up, say they need 100 people to work, okay? Well, they've got 200 people applying, sometimes more, okay? There are going to be 100 winners, quote unquote. They're going to get the job. And after that, there's still going to be 100 people out there who aren't employed. Okay, what's the issue? The issue is that the business owner has complete advantage and the person applying for the job has total disadvantage. You almost have to take the offer, okay? Because if you don't, there's somebody standing right behind you in line. As a matter of fact, there's 100 other people. If you refuse to take the lousy wages they're offering you, you don't get the job, but somebody's going to take it, okay? And this flies in the face of one of the big arguments of these libertarian idiots that no, you're free. You can, if I'm not offering enough, you can reject it. Okay, you're not free. You're under compulsion. You have a gun at your head because you need to feed yourself and your family. You need to keep a roof over your head. If you don't take the job and the crappy wages, somebody else is going to take it, and you and your family are going to be left with nothing. That's not freedom, okay? You have to be sick to think that that's any kind of freedom, okay? So it's literally like a forced labor market. What is forced? It's slavery, okay? Okay, it's just that you are a wage-earning slave. Okay, you have to take the crappy position, you have to take the hours and the overtime and the garbage conditions they put you in, or you starve. Okay, that's compulsion. Okay, and before capitalism, you didn't have this. You could say, hell no, and I'll take my family and that family and that family, and we'll go live out there. We don't pay rent out there. We'll raise crops, we'll raise farm animals, we'll live. Goodbye to you and your crappy job. Okay, but with capitalism, you can't do that. They took the lands and they took the opportunities to produce for yourself. All right? Now, this gets into some economic theory, okay, and understanding when you produce a product, and it really doesn't matter what it is, you have the input materials and the input labor. Okay, so getting back to shoes, you have leather. I'm talking about old shoes, okay, not the rubber, plastic garbage we have now. But you had leather and you had the worker who made the shoes, okay? Now, it is an economic fact that the cost of buying that leather is going to reach an equilibrium, okay, at which it cannot get cheaper, okay, unless the factory owner literally goes out and just starts stealing leather from people, okay? So the ability to reduce costs cannot come from the raw materials. The raw materials have gone to their minimum price in the market. So where does cost reduction come from so they can produce a profit? It comes from the worker. It has to come from the worker. They have got to cut the wages of the worker. They have got to force the worker to be more productive, okay, to produce more shoes, okay? That's the only way. And so the profitability of capitalism depends on the worker, okay? The poor worker who is a slave who had to take the shitty offer, okay? I mean, think about this. This capitalism that, claims to be, the great opportunity and America, the land of opportunity. It's not opportunity. The opportunity was there. You could have been an independent shoemaker, okay, but not now, okay? So how do they generate profits? It's by wage suppression. It's by bringing in more technology, more machinery to replace workers, okay? It means more layoffs. It means more people out there in the reserve army of labor, more people out there looking for jobs who can't get them, okay? And so it literally, it, from the beginning, it produced unemployment, okay? Because people could not live freely on the land anymore, and there were only so many jobs. But it depends on unemployment also. I've shown that. If you had 100 jobs and only 100 people applying, the business owner would not have the advantage. You, the worker, would have the advantage. Because all of you could say, look, I'm not taking your $5 an hour, I'm taking 10 an hour, or I'm going to walk. Well, the business owner, he doesn't have a choice. He has to take your offer. You see what I'm saying? And so capitalism depends on unemployment. If they didn't have that 5%, 10% unemployed people standing in line, they couldn't produce profits. And in capitalism, if you don't produce profits, you don't exist. Okay? And so literally getting rid of unemployment would end capitalism. Okay? It would end it. It would be over. And this is something that I had a discussion with somebody almost 10 years ago. And he pointed out something. He said that it would be absolutely revolutionary if the workers in countries could get one thing passed, just one simple law, a maximum work week of, say, 30 hours, okay? If there were a law in the United States that said no worker can be forced to work more than 30 hours a week, it would change society and it would end capitalism. Why? Because it would start a cycle, an upward cycle of the workers. If the company needs a certain number of workers at 40 hours a week and you just cut it to 30 hours a week, that means they have to hire more workers. That means that unemployment disappeared. And that means that the workers take over. Because the business owner then does not have any choice. They have to pay the higher wages that the worker demands, and they can't do a damn thing about it. They can't fire you because there's nobody to replace you. You see what I'm saying? So capitalism literally depends on unemployed people. And without unemployment, it would be replaced automatically by socialism. Automatically. Okay? And that's what I mean is that without the government protecting the capitalists, okay? Without government protection and without government bailouts every time that capitalism collapses, okay? Capitalism would end. It is propped up, okay, by these laws. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. Don't tell me it's a successful system when it would cease to exist if all the people were working, 30 hours a week, and their wages were going up and up, and they would suddenly take over the whole operation. Okay, it's not a successful system when you keep it in place by wage suppression, by forced unemployment, okay, by union busting, okay. Every so many years, the entire system collapses. This is just another economic reality of capitalism. Don't tell me it's a successful system when every few years it has to be bailed out with billions and trillions of dollars taken, either produced arbitrarily by the government or taken from the taxpayers, okay? That's reverse socialism. That is capitalist business owners doing business as usual, making their profits, but the nature of their system is that they go into overproduction, they start laying people off, and the whole damn system collapses, and then it has to be bailed out. Okay? That's criminal. That's thievery. To maintain a system that's natural state is failure, but you keep it in place by bailing it out at the expense of the people, the same people who just lost their jobs, the same people who just lost their homes, and now you're extracting taxes from them to bail out the criminals who caused the economic collapse. It's a criminal system, guys. It's thievery, all right? How do you say that such a system is Islamic? Okay, you can't, guys. Get real. Okay, I'm going to come back, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.